Alright, we're super late on a Sunday night, scraping the bottom of the barrel. Well, let's see if we can see any Netrunner games come online tonight. Per the usual, we'll just be commenting on games found on Jinteki.net. Let me know if you don't want your games streamed. I'll add your username to a list and avoid them in the future. Tonight, there does not seem to be too much action, though. A little surprising. We're going to see pretty soon a bunch of new cards released, which is really exciting, from Chez. I think the only new card that got added to the ban list was Corp ID. It was a Wayland one. Here we go. Titan Transnational finally got banned. It was an interesting idea. ID and idea. Titan Transnational and forever has been part of the whole Titan train, the Atlas train. I'm kind of happy to see it go, though, to be honest. I always felt like the games it provided were uninteractive, not terribly fun. They almost always... You can see here the front of Netrunner DB is a deck making fun of the fact that Titan is banned. While we wait for a game, let's just look into this a little bit. Why Titan is banned. So Global Food came back. You can now use Global Food. We can't use SSL. They added in Global Food, but removed SSL. Alright. I guess I can kind of see why. I don't know how I feel about that, but I think if you're going to have... You either have both or neither, right? Like, either put Global Food in the game and SSL? Why swap to one or the other? I don't know, maybe both being in the game would be too powerful. Like, the corpse would have access to two 5/3s neutral. But if you do that, doesn't SSL cost... We should really quickly look that up before I speak nonsense. Doesn't SSL cost influence? No, okay. I think if they made SSL cost influence, it would be okay to have them both available. The fact that SSL doesn't cost influence, though, is probably... I think it's wise to ban. I think SSL probably just should have been 1 pip. That way, if you wanted both GFI and SSL, you'd be 6 influence down. The fact that Transnational has 17 influence is just nuts, though. So the new construction, I believe, is just in there to combo. I can't remember the exact way it works, but how does this work? Whenever you advance new construction, you may install a card from HQ on a new server and res that card, ignoring all costs. Yeah, so I think what you do with new construction is you install advance it, or something like that, which allows you to put another agenda on the table, like your hostile takeover, and score it at the same time. Something weird like that. I can't quite remember all the details. Anyway, just looking at the pieces here, we're not really seeing anything crazy. This is just pretty much normal Atlas. But it's still pretty strong. When I was given an exclusive scoop, played with the most busted way, unfortunately I didn't get to play as many games. Dedicated technician. If you manage to score an Atlas with only one of these res, you can almost guarantee the Atlas score at the very next turn. What is it? What is it talking about? This Malpert card? What is this? Whenever you score an agenda from this server, you may search R&D for one non-agenda card and reveal it, shuffle R&D, add that card to HQ. I don't know. Slow night? Guess it is Sunday night. People are getting ready to go to bed and wake up for the next work day. Perhaps Netrunner is not at the forefront of their mind. Aaron Marin definitely deserves to stay banned, as well as Blue Moose. Clan Vengeance was dumb. Crowdfunding was broken. Encore. It surprises me that Encore is not allowed. I'm not really sure about that. I guess really Encore was mostly used for pretty degenerate strategies. Nothing that was legitimate. It was a fun idea. Gives you another turn, right? Yeah, you get another turn, but in decks where it wasn't broken, it was bad, and then in decks where it was broken, it was just degenerate. GPI net tab, I believe that's the one that gives you a credit every time you reveal a card. Yeah, whenever you approach a piece of... Oh, no. This is the one that triggers the reveal when you... But no one used this for what it actually was supposed to be used for. See, I think people were supposed to use it the same way you're supposed to use Kill Switch. Or is it called Kill Switch? It's the one that... No, it's not Kill Switch. Flip Switch. It's the one that Az is supposed to get here. Yeah, so you just trash it to jack out. You don't get to reveal the ice. Because I think the way this card was supposed to work is that it was supposed to be like a scanning card, right? Like you make a run, you scan the piece of ice ahead of you, you realize that you can't make it through, and then you use this to jack out. The problem is no one used it for that. They just used it for the expose effect, which in turn powered up cards like Amakua and whatever card out there. I can't remember what it was called, but it gave you a credit every time you expose a piece of ice. Or just, I think it was just a card in general. So yeah, it makes sense that GPI net tap is gone. Lamb was just far too ubiquitous. Like for 7 credits you can get through anything. Sometimes it was only 5 credits. It was a good counter to Endless Eula. I liked that it countered Endless Eula. But it was a little too strong. Plus it came out of Shaper, which was a little weird. Usually you think of Fractures as coming from Anarch. Although it seems like the ban list keeps going back and forth on whether they want to ban Lamb or N'Golo. I think for a while, wasn't N'Golo banned? And I don't see it here anymore. Yeah. I mean, when you look at them, they're very similar. They're practically identical. It's just that Lamb breaks all subs for 2 credits. Which really only suffers against low strength barriers, right? With only 1 subroutine. Imagine running into a static wall with Lamb. I think you'd just cry. Or a wall of static. Yeah. It says little piddly neutral 3 to res, 3 strength, ice. Costs you 5 credits to break with Lamb. But this is one of the only situations in which Lamb is actually bad. I don't think anyone even uses wall of static anymore. Like, if it's an ice wall, yeah, it's a little annoying that you have to pay 2 credits to break it. But it's not the end of the world. And if all your opponent has is ice walls, you're gonna be fine anyway. You're not really afraid of the ice walls. Let's do a quick look on all barriers. I forget how you do it. I think you do it like this. Let's sort it by strength. So we're looking at anything with low strength. Is wraparound no longer in the game? Looks like wraparound's going to get added to the system update 2021. Nice. Kind of miss seeing wraparound. Wraparound was fun. It was a weird anti-AI breaker without actually being an anti-AI breaker. Like, nothing here printed on the card says, you know, if your opponent has an AI breaker, do X. But at the same time, it was very much a counter to anyone not running a legitimate fractor. No one uses quicksand. Is quicksand even legal anymore? Is there a way to sort by only cards that are currently in the game? I don't think so. No one uses quicksand, and even if they did use quicksand, it's still 2 credits to break for the first 2 times you run into it. And then even though quicksand is getting extra strength, Lamb boosts 6 strength for 3, so it's just 5 to get through it, which isn't cheap until you start thinking about the fact that if quicksand had 6 strength, it would still be 5 credits to get through. Quicksand was fun. It was never tournament powered, a tournament strong. What am I trying to say? It was never the tier that belonged in a tournament, but it was a fun card in general. Resistor, you're not really caring about that. If you have Lamb, you'll probably just pay the 2 credits to break the trace subroutine. It's a little, again, it's a little more expensive, kind of like the comparison with Ice Wall. Like, it's a little frustrating you're spending 2 credits instead of 1. But again, it's not the end of the world. And if you had a tag or 2, it's not going to matter because Lamb has 2 strength. No one uses Bailiff. You do have to spend 2 credits to break a vanilla, though. That's pretty funny. I think, I don't know too many decks that still run vanilla. It'd probably be Rush decks. But it would be pretty funny to have to install a 4-costed program and then spend 2 credits to break a vanilla. I think vanilla is definitely a situation where you're gonna be a very upset if you're breaking it with Lamb. So we've got what? Vanilla and Ice Wall? Or sorry, vanilla and Static Wall. You're happy to see Endless Eula with Lamb. I don't think Marimati really matters. It's 5 credits to break if it's on HQ, but that's not the worst. It's a little expensive. Can't get my mouse to stand still. It's a little expensive to break if it's on HQ, but when you compare it to a card like Corroder, Corroder's usually a good baseline, or even Paperclip, but Corroder tends to get used out of faction a little more sometimes. I mean, I guess it depends on how tight the influence is, but let's use Corroder as the baseline just because it is sort of the standard barrier breaker. Corroder starts out with a strength of 2, right? double check that. It's one of the reasons why it's just a nice barrier breaker in general, is that 2 strength. Yeah. The Corroder starts out with a strength of 2. So you need to spend 3 credits. So you're looking at 3 versus 5. It's still a lot cheaper with Corroder. Plus when you factor in the fact that Corroder only costs 2 to install, you're looking at a lot cheaper. Kukuga is not in the game anymore. You're actually happy to break this with Lamb. Or rather, I should say that you're not really losing out on much paying 2 credits to break border control with Lamb, since it has 2 subroutines anyway. Gold Farmer is awful. I'm pretty sure it's banned. I'm so happy Gold Farmer is not in the game anymore. That was a silly piece of ice. So you don't even need to worry about it. Next, getting extra end the run subroutines for extra next set pieces of ice no longer matters anymore with Lamb. I don't think anyone uses Galahad. I don't think it's legal anymore. Yeah, and then the further down we go, we start seeing cards with multiple subroutines, or cards that have either been removed from the game, or cards with multiple subroutines, which automatically makes the 2 costs to break fine, or sometimes even better, like Blockchain. No matter how many subroutines Blockchain has, it's just going to cost the runner 5 credits to get through it. But I think the real reason that... Oh, we missed it. The real reason that Lamb is so good is because you can throw it down and immediately get through anything. You don't have to actually be afraid of any piece of ice. Alright, so first game of the night, we're looking at Blue Sun versus a Sunny deck. You don't see Sunny very often. She's a bit slow. It's difficult to play her effectively. Did they add Adonis back in the game? Adonis! Our boy! This could just be a casual game, I'm not really sure. That's fine though. Even if this is a casual game, this should be some fun. Dirty Laundry and Archives from Sunny getting set up. We see no agenda scored. And Adonis res on a World Plaza. Install an asset from HQ on World Plaza and res it, lowering its res cost by 2? Why would you not use Breaker Bay? I guess you're just trying to use it in faction, since Breaker Bay is out of faction, right? No, Breaker Bay is neutral, isn't it? Oh, who knows? Anyway, Blue Sun oversight AIing Orion and picking it back up for 15 credits. Oh boy. Blue Sun has 54 credits. I don't know what's going on over there. That is an insane number of credits. They're just setting up with all the money in the world. I have to guess that they're trying to kill the runner, which is a little troublesome because every time Sunny runs here, she's turning on the potential for things like C-Source or hard-hitting news. She runs Archives to play White Hat, though, which is going to let her look at the Corp's hand, I believe, on a Trace 3. But the thing is, the Corp has so much money, they don't care if they boost the Trace, so the Corp just pays 6 credits to boost their Trace to 9. Sunny takes a look at that and says, no thank you. Sunny only having a link of 3 now, boosted once by Security Nexus. We now see the double Adonis. The double boys in the server. Look at these double boys. It's hard to argue with those sex bots. Subliminal messaging also just getting the Corp a free credit. It really doesn't look like Sunny's in a great place. Security Nexus is going to need to be a Trace. to bypass ice, and right now she can't fight traces against the Corp. She's too poor comparatively. She does throw down 2 sports hoppers, which is going to give her another 2 link, but at the cost of 6 credits. A gachapon will help her set up, but does it really matter? Blue Sun even just picks up an Adonis and puts it right back down again, I think is what we saw there. Now we see an open server. Runner decides to go check that out. It is an executive boot camp, which means it's going to be able to instant fire paying a credit looking for an asset from R&D, wasting a click from the runner. It's not looking good for Sunny. I don't think Sunny really has too many options here. She's comparatively poor. Blue Sun reses this 15 costed Orion, but it doesn't matter because they'll just be able to pick it back up. Sunny runs Security Nexus. The Corp only pays 4 to boost the trace strength to 9. Sunny goes ahead and lets it end the run, takes a tag. Runs Archives to trigger DreamNet to draw a card and gain a credit. Shakes the tag. Back over to Blue Sun. They have iced Archive to prevent those shenanigans again. It is a Sandstone. Sandstone is going to get weaker each time. The Corp goes ahead and pays 2 to boost the trace strength to 7. But our friend here, Sunny, has 5 links, so they go ahead and pay the 2 credits to get in. They're going to see a card and a draw. They go ahead and install Sherman and Shrike. Now, I will admit, Sunny has a lot of link here. We're looking at 5 link. So at this point, the Security Nexus trace is 5, meaning it's just a money contest to bypass 1 piece of ice. But again, the Corp is in a position to do that without any real issues. This empty server here ended up being a Maryland campaign. And then, of course, more importantly, we see a Sandberg dropped, which means for every 10 credits, sorry, I said that wrong. For every 5 credits, if you have at least 10, that's kind of an odd conditional. But anyway, each piece of ice is gaining an extra +1 strength for every 5 credits in the Corp's pool. It's going to be very difficult for Sun to get through anything. Looking at a 20 strength Orion at 18 strength Sandstone. Corp is just continuing to accrue more and more money here. Sunny has her breaker suite, but does it really matter in the face of ice that is this high strength? I think this is quickly just becoming an unwinnable situation. Blue Sun continuing to pick up those Adonises and just put them right back down at a 2 credit discount. At this point, kind of just doing that to keep them running. Why not? Sunny is not getting into any of these locations. Adonis is making the Corp, these Adonises together, making the Corp 6 credits a turn. Maryland is making the Corp money. Sunny runs R&D. Outermost piece of ice is not res. We just see another Sandstone res for 3. 20 strength. Of course, every time you encounter Sandstone, you put 1 virus token on it. We're not seeing the virus token represented on the cards. I'm not really sure why. No, I missed here. I should have paid more attention. Did Sunny get through the Sandstone? We did the Nexus trace. The Corp pays 3 to increase the trace strength to 8. Sunny just went ahead and paid it. She got into R&D. Used White Hat. The Corp pays 6 to increase White Hat's trace strength to 9. Sunny goes ahead and pays the 4 to make up the difference, and then looks at the Corp's hand. She gets to choose 2 of those to shuffle back into R&D, decides to shuffle Lady Liberty and Border Control, which means we have in HQ a vanity project as well as a government takeover. A card is installed in the server 1 and advance 1, so we have to assume that's either the vanity or the government takeover. A run on the remote here reveals a Chiashi at 19 strength. We play another trace game with Security Nexus. Corp just tying money to money again. You have to think that, you know, they're betting against their wallets at this point. There is no trace on Security Nexus anymore, so it's just money against money. But at this stage of the game, Sunny is raking in 5 credits every turn for free for the foreseeable future, unless something happens to prevent that. But the Corp is still making 8 credits a turn with their Adonis Maryland campaign stuff, plus a pickup of Chiashi. Wait a minute, how... Wait, how... Oh, you know... Yeah, okay, I realized my mistake. There was no way that the card in Server 1 could have been an agenda, because World's Plaza is an asset. You can't have an agenda in here. But the Bio Vault is going to allow the Corp to just end the run anytime they want. The Corp is letting Adonis run out. It's very likely that they're going to attempt to turn this remote into a scoring server, but the transition is going to be a little clunky. Perhaps they don't intend to turn it into a scoring server. Maybe instead they're looking to... No, because they pick up the Adonis and put it back down before it runs out. No, they just want to make more and more and more money. The problem is, though, is that Sunny really isn't losing money anymore. She's making 5 a turn for free. And then she makes a Jack Sinclair run, which is a run where you can't use breakers. The Corp reveals a Mazvingo. Sunny goes ahead and lets that end the run, and this is actually quite smart on Sunny's part, because this is generating more turning wheel tokens. In fact, if she really wanted to, she could just run into Mazvingo a couple times to just get more turning wheel tokens. However, we're going to hit a Sandstone instead on the remote. She decides she wants to test that remote. Actually uses a security chip to boost the strength of all her cloud breakers by +1 per each link, I think is that how that works. So all her breakers have +5 strength for this run. And she's paying through these cards. She pays through the Sandstone by paying 10 credits, runs into the Border Control, pays 6 to break Border Control, runs into a Whoredom, and is going to try to Security Nexus the Whoredom. Corp goes ahead and pays 8 credits to boost the strength on that. Sunny pays out the 8. But then Border Control is dropped to just simply end the run, putting Sunny down to 4 credits. Kind of left with nothing else to do, she spends the last 3 credits of her turn clicking up. And the Corp just keeps going. picks up their Adonis, drops it back down, puts another piece of ice on server 1, and the system just keeps running. Interestingly, the Corp could have also just used the Biovault to end that run. Probably didn't, because they want to save the Biovault for another server. The idea behind this Blue Sun deck seems to not really be kill-oriented. It is simply a deck that makes it so that the runner can never, ever actually get in to any server. Smartly, Sunny is continuing to use this Jack Sinclair run to bounce into Mazvingo to generate 1 turning wheel token each turn. The problem is, the interaction between Biovault and the turning wheel, I believe the way it works is Biovault can end a turning wheel access, I think, the way the timing works. Which means that Sunny will have to make a run on R&D and only spend half of the tokens to see if Blue Sun is going to use Biovault to end the run. That's usually how it works when you have something like a Nisei token, anything like that. She goes ahead and runs the remote, hits a border control, bounces off of it. At this point, Sunny realizes this is just it's like running into a brick wall over and over again. She doesn't have a single agenda. In spite of the fact that she is making 5 credits a turn and generating turning wheel tokens, I think she just knows that this is a battle she's not going to win. She only has so many security chips. Once those are spent, getting into these servers is going to be extremely expensive. And even if she's able to, between the use of cards like Border Control, Biovault, the Corp just gets to kick her out right as she makes it through all of these servers. This is a pretty rough Blue Sun deck to go against. In general, we see here the building blocks. Cards like Building Blocks, Oversight AI. These cards get Blue Sun through the early parts of the game till they start generating so much money that they can res this ice and keep it out instead of having to pick it back up. And yeah, it's just a lockout deck. I don't even know if the point is to score anything, is it? They had government takeover. They also had Mazvingo. I suppose you could, if you ran Red Planet Courier, the idea might be to get enough advancement tokens on these advanceable pieces of ice that you Red Planet Courier a government takeover. And then, I don't know, maybe there's like a hostile takeover in here. You just do that for the final point. Regardless, Sunny takes so long to set up. I think the weakness of this Blue Sun deck is an aggressive runner. And I mean like a really aggressive runner. Somebody who can get into these locations and stop these effects from happening in the early parts of the game. Because if you just trash the World Plaza, now I'm not saying that's cheap, but if you have a real aggressive runner that has money early, can get in early, to trash things like the World Plaza, the Adonis, before all of these things can get set up, and admittedly that's difficult to do, because Building Blocks is going to res things for free, Oversight AI is going to res things for free. Cards like Executive Boot Camp are just going to pull back the cards that the Corp needs. And then, even though we never saw it used, we do know that from the White Hat run earlier, we do know that the Corp had a preemptive action in hand, so a lot of these cards can just be shuffled back into R&D when needed. It's tough. Not very fun to play against. I think again it loses to aggressive runners. But once it gets set up, no one likes playing against the Sandberg deck. Once the Sandberg deck gets set up, it's kind of just game over. Whoa. See a lot of games now. Guess Europe is waking up at this time of day. Okay, let's see game 2. Good old Ken Express Tenma versus what may very well be the same Blue Sun deck we just saw. Maybe a different one. Already looks a little different. We see a Sentry in the form of Surveyor, as well as Rashida Jahim. Anyway, we're already looking at a 3-1 score scenario. New legwork art. Anyway, 3-1 agenda points in favor of Ken. And it's an Oracle May event deck. Okay, I've seen this before. The way it works, it's fairly clever. The way it works is all of your cards are either events or trash breakers, the bin breakers. So every turn, you use Oracle May to draw a card and you call event. If it's an event, well, you just got paid 2 credits for drawing a card. If it's not an event, it's a bin breaker, and it goes to the trash where you want it anyway. And since you're Ken, all your run events are discounted, well, technically not discounted, you generate 1 credit for all of your run events, although I don't know of any run event that costs 0 credits. Although I suppose if you use prepaid voice pad, you could discount it down to 0 credits. Anyway. So that's the general strategy behind what Ken is trying to do. Blue Sun here, on the other hand, I don't think this is the Blue Sun deck we saw last time. Again, I could be wrong. Similar cards, though, in the building blocks, in the border control. And Spearfishing is going to get through that Surveyor, but it ended up being a NGO front. I'm sure the Corp is very happy about that. Not only did they waste a click from the runner, but also got rid of a pesky Spearfishing, which is a great card to have against a Surveyor that's on the inside of a server. However, Blue Sun picks that Surveyor up. We'll have to see if they put it down somewhere else. A little confused why they picked that up. Did they want the money, perhaps? Or maybe they wanted to prevent future spearfishing attempts. But the thing is, though, is we see 2 spearfishings in the bin already. We have to assume that the runner only has 1 more. An oversight AI played on Orion, more than likely just used to generate revenue here. A Bravado run on HQ against a border control has... Wait, what just happened here? But they went ahead... I think Ken went ahead and let border control fire. So they just used the Bravado to generate money. Essentially using it to generate 4 credits. 3 from Bravado and 1 from Ken's ID. But they also hand over 1 credit to the Corp when they do that. I guess they're not too concerned about that. The Corp already has 34 credits. A single credit isn't going to make the biggest difference in the world. Again, using Oracle May, calling out event, and we see a lot of exclusive parties. If you plan on drawing through your entire deck, exclusive party is a good way to go. It also synergizes very nicely with the Oracle May strategy. Back over to Blue Sun, we see they do have 33 credits, but not a lot of rezzed ice. We have to assume this is not a Sandberg deck. A new card goes into the remote advanced ones. We'll have to see how Ken wants to react to that. They go ahead and drop a falsified credentials, naming Agenda. They are incorrect, as this is an NGO front. Very good bait from Blue Sun. A Maker's Eye is played on R&D. However, with those 33 credits, the Corp is more than able to res some of this, sorry, all of this ice on R&D. Chiashi is resed, broken, with a cost of 7 credits by Paperclip. MK Ultra comes out to break the Surveyor. Expensive, sure, but the Corp had the money to do this, and they find a hostile takeover and a Project Atlas on the top of R&D, putting them on game point. However, on the flip side of this, Blue Sun picks up their Chiashi, plays a C-Source. Are we going to see the double Scorch? Yeah, double Scorch is it. And that's game. I have mixed feelings about Scorch Earth being back in the game. I think high profile target was better designed. Scorch Earth is pretty brutal. The fact that it only requires 1 tag. But we'll have to see how the meta develops because of this change. I think I don't like it because it creates situations like this where the runner is, by all accounts, making the right choices. And they're punished simply because they didn't have more money than the Corp. Like, at the end of the day, that's what happened. If instead, for example, high-profile target had to be used, the Corp would have had to stick Ken with 2 tags, and this scenario wouldn't have happened. I understand it's frustrating for the corporation sometimes that they need 2 tags. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm quoting this wrong. It's if you want to do as much meat damage as Scorched Earth, the runner needs 2 tags. But it stacks for every extra tag after that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like the fact that Blue Sun can just pick up a Chiashi that they rezzed and then just drop down a C-Source and double Scorched. I guess they had to have both the Scorched. Can you say that as a plural? Scorched in hand, which you're not always guaranteed to have, especially in a 27 card deck. Maybe that was an estimated risk Ken was willing to take. They looked at the number of cards in play and said, what are the odds of them having 2 Scorched Earths? He had 4 cards. He was able to withstand the first Scorched, but not the second. Yeah, I guess that was just a little unlucky on his part. Maybe he didn't make the right calls and died anyway. Because in a world where Blue Sun doesn't have both of those in hand, Ken's fine. And he'll probably fish around for that last point. He even had 13 credits. But all the Corp had to do was boost by 11. And then have 6 credits left over. So for a total of 17 credits, Ken wasn't exactly poor. It's not like he left himself wide open for this. That's just the way it goes, I guess. What the heck? Kit. Well, Kit's changed quite a bit over the years. Real Kit Peddler. No longer a small child sitting cross-legged. Apparently they've had an upgrade. A lot of Blue Sun tonight. Don't know how I feel about that. It makes me a little nervous that the upcoming Corp meta is going to be nothing but Blue Suns. That won't be very interesting. But the new cards come out, I believe, on what, the 28th of March? So it could just be that everyone's trying to get in those last couple games before the big ban list. Sorry, not the ban list. Before the new cards drop. When do those cards drop? System Gateway, yeah. When is System Gateway coming out? Yeah, who cares about this? Let's go back to the game. Alright, so Kid, of course, converting the first piece of ice she encounters into a code gate. Naturally, is going to use Ngolo since the synergy there is apparent. There's something called an Expo Grid? What is this? When your turn begins, gain 1 credit if there's a res asset installed in the server. Kind of a neat card. That's not even a new card. This is a Sansan card. I think. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen this card played. But that's pretty neat. Just a humble credit. A single credit if there's a res thing in that server at the beginning of your turn. But I think this is the World Plaza deck that we saw earlier. So we already know what's coming. This is going to be a Sandberg lockout deck. Kit's on a timer. She needs to be aggressive now, otherwise she's going to get Sandberged. Once that happens, she'll get locked out forever. Sandberg decks also fall to stealth decks, don't they? Just because of the maddening efficiency of stealth breakers. How does that that asset, how does that Adonis have it looked like it had 21. Was I just seeing things? Yeah, look, it has 21 counters on it. What the? I don't know what's happening. Anyway, Blue Sun hasn't had to res anything yet. Except that it looks like they did an oversight AI early on. This is probably a Maryland, just based on what we've seen from this deck before. Kit, being a shaper, is still getting set up here. Has a oh, I cannot pronounce that. Geber Selassie? Geber Selassie. That's what we're going to go with. With a double R&D interface, Geber Selassie allows you to host an AI breaker. And it maintains its strength. Nothing's on it now, though. I'm not in 100% certain which pronoun to use for Kit. I'm going to use she. I might be wrong on that. I apologize if I'm correct. Consider it a limitation of the English language. However, she runs R&D, sees a Tithonium, gets through the Tithonium, it looked like. Accesses 3 cards from R&D, it doesn't see anything for her trouble. Haven't mentioned it, but Artist has been being used this entire game to both gain 2 credits, but also install all of these pieces at a credit discount each turn. 1 per turn, of course. Blue Sun continuing to do what they were doing last time, picking up Adonis, dropping it back down again, generating money. Interestingly, they did not pick up the Tithonium. I'm a little confused why the Blue Sun picked up the Adonis when it still had quite a few credits on it. When you think about it, that's a net loss. You get 4 credits to pick it up. You drop it down for 2 credits, and you no, it's a net gain of 2 credits, isn't it? Now I understand. The Adonis basically by picking up the Adonis and adding it to your hand, it basically becomes an action that says, click once, gain 2 credits. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's disgusting, but I love the efficiency of it. All through the use of World Plaza, Expo Grid continuing to gain a credit each turn, subliminal messaging gaining a credit each turn. This Blue Sun deck has definitely been optimized to just do nothing but generate money. A legwork is played here on HQ. Kit sees border control, Mazvingo, Winchester. She's going to be able to get through the border control with Angola, it looked like. Mazvingo painted. One of these was probably painted with Palangi. How did she get through all 3 pieces of ice? Let's really quickly look at that. Oh, of course, the first piece of ice she encounters is converted to Code Gate. So between Angolo, Kit, and Palangi, she was able to get through all 3 pieces of ice, but then of course the border control kicked her out before the legwork was successful. Oh, and I didn't realize this. Geber Selassie, it's probably like another language, I just don't know how to pronounce it, actually is installed on a non-AI icebreaker. I thought you hosted things on Geber Selassie, but instead you host it on another icebreaker, effectively allowing Angolo to maintain its strength through a run. That's pretty efficient. In fact, that's going to give this Blue Sun a lot of trouble until they get that Sandberg out. And on the next turn, Kit goes right back into HQ and steals a vanity project from HQ with a vanilla run, no legwork. But that's okay, it's still enough to get in and grab vanity. And she's still generating all this money with Beth, with the artist. She's pro-conning. Rizeki generating the humble 1 per turn. She's been able to keep up here with Blue Sun so far. And she might not know this, but we know she's on game point. Because this deck seems to only, this Blue Sun deck only seems to run vanity projects and government takeover. Blue Sun continues to set up, does the Adonis trick, puts more ice on HQ, makes more money. But Kit recognizes that she can take a turn off here, plays Peace in Our Time to generate a lot of money, gives money back over to the Corp. That is going to be troublesome once the Sandberg hits. The Corp actually just concedes. You do have to wonder why. It wasn't looking great for the Corp. Perhaps they just didn't draw their Sandberg. I think that's probably what happened. With 3 cards in the bin, I don't think... It's not like the runner trashed those cards. I think the Corp just kind of was getting unlucky. We only saw 1 building blocks. 1 oversight AI. A Chiashi in the bin. Why was that Chiashi in the bin? Maybe the Corp drew it early. pitched it early. Yeah, it looks like they just didn't get the cards in the right order and were kind of getting fed up with it. Plus, Kit had plenty of money. Not only did she have plenty of money, she also had an Angolo that never loses its strength. And between Palangi, Geber Selassie, sorry, not Geber Selassie, Palangi, Angolo, and her ID ability, she get through any 3 ice server with just Angolo. I think the Corp at that point kind of felt like they were out of options. Even if they did get Sandberg down, Kit would be able to get through the server. Now the thing is though, one Palangi's in the bin. You've got this Palangi here. I suppose you could try to wipe the virus token on it, but that would set you back an entire turn. That'd be a very expensive purge just for the single virus token. Plus, Kit also has these 2 simul chips. You have to assume she's got a third in here somewhere, which means there are 6 Palangis you have to get through. That's a pretty steep uphill battle for the Corp. Definitely possible, but I think by that time, Kit would have already stolen the last agenda. Yeah. Blue Sun was probably done at that point. Makes sense that they ducked out. Oh boy. Oh boy. Who is this guy? Nero Severn? Nobody plays this guy. Alright, this guy gets to jack out when he sees a sentry. His special ability is running away with his tail tucked between his legs whenever he sees a sentry. It's pretty great. The ability is so bad that FFG recognized this and also gave the guy a link. So we'll have to see if the runner deck plays into that link, or maybe just really likes Nero's ability. Anyways, against Mirror Morph, the ID that says, I can do 3 unique things each turn, just watch me. It's not looking good for Mirror Morph, though. Actually, it's looking quite horrible. I don't know what happened, but it looks like there were some early runs, and Nero is on game point. So right out the gate, we're already on turn 5, but no agendas have been scored for the Corp, and the Corp is in an uphill battle that they're going to have to claw their way out of to somehow score 7 points while preventing Nero from scoring any, stealing any. And the only thing they have to their name is a Rezzed Hagen on HQ, a piece of ice over both centrals, a remote that is empty with a piece of ice, and a blank server here with a mystery card. You don't have to be an expert at Netrunner to know that Mirror Morph is in a tough spot. They throw a piece of ice over the mystery card in server 2. What? An RNG key? Out of Criminal Nero? This is fascinating. What is he going to do with this RNG key? Is he running Find the Truth? This is great. Alright, we've seen so very little of Nero's deck, so we can't really extrapolate very much here. I mean, Dirty Laundry, Sure Gamble, those don't really give anything away. And Diversion of Funds, well, that just is natural because he's part of Criminal, but the bankroll is a little interesting. But it doesn't really tell anything. It just shows that it's a credit generation device. Paragon. Not every criminal deck runs Paragon, but Paragon is a very standard console. It's a little bit like Desperado. So you kind of have this... I guess if anything, you look at these two cards and you say, this deck wants to run, because you're generating money on bankroll whenever you make a successful run, and then the first time you make a successful run with Paragon, you generated credit. But the RNG key is a head scratcher. Amina has been dropped, a very, very strong decoder, very expensive to install. Once installed, though, it is a powerhouse. It is terrifying when an Amina hits the table. And Nero offset the cost of that by cashing in on that bankroll. They dirty laundry into R&D. What the heck is a vapor frame fabricator? Anyway, they dirty laundry into R&D. See a Hagen? Hagen is a barrier. Not going to be able to be broken with Amina. A little bit gutsy, perhaps. Nero going to be out the 2 credits they spent on the dirty laundry run. That's a little upsetting. But they took a chance. And the Corp is now down to 5 credits. However, the Maryland campaign here in Server 1 is going to help them bounce back. What the heck is this Vapor Frame Fabricator? Install 1 card, ignoring all costs. Use this ability only once per turn. When the runner trashes this asset, you may install 1 card. Oh, so it's kind of like that. Okay. I think this is still an old, quotes, old card. In that it came out from the last Nisei pack. It's kind of like that other one that generates you 2 credits when the runner trashes it. I just don't really think I've ever seen anyone use this. Install a card ignoring all costs. Is that really that useful? I guess what it really does is it allows Mirror Morph to take unique actions so that Mirror Morph can trigger its ID ability. Anyway, Nero modded a Mackler out. Nero's using some very, very expensive tools here. Mackler is 5, Amina is 7. Makes sense that modded is in the deck to try and offset the cost of these very expensive programs. Mackler, of course, going to be the barrier breaker. First time you break all subroutines on a piece of ice. With this program, you gain a credit back. I suppose that's something. Anyway, Rez on MC Austerity Policy the turn prior is going to lose Nero a click when the Corp clicks it. Nero tries to contest that, runs into a next gold. That's a very, very pricey Rez. However, it is a sentry, so Nero jacks out with his ID ability. Very good use of that. So the Corp is poor now. No money. Well, 1 credit. Nero decides then to go into R&D and makes a blind guess using RNG key. Guesses 1. Hits a 0. Nanotech Matrix. This is that other one. The one that's very similar to Vapor Frame. Where you gain 2 credits for a click. Back to Mirror Morph. Mirror Morph is poor, but they have pieces on the table. So they go ahead and click MCA, click for a credit. They've got their 3rd click to do another unique action in order to trigger Mirror Morph's ability. But they're in a good spot here. Yeah, they don't have a lot of money, but neither does Nero. Nero has powerful breakers on the table, but does not have the money to really leverage them. And not only that, he's losing a click every time MCA is clicked up there. Archive memories dropped in order to pull back hedge fund. Just needs money. Oh, a bravado run. Very smart from Nero. Bravado run on archives to make some money. And it's very likely that the Corp will not res this piece of ice because they just revealed that they archive memories a hedge fund, so they want to hold on to their 5 credits because they can't afford to click up for more credits to play that hedge fund, allowing Nero to bounce back up to 9 credits. They draw a couple cards for their last clicks and pass it back over to Mirror Morph. Mirror Morph now gaining money from Maryland, shuffles that back into R&D, drops that hedge fund that we saw them pick up from earlier, as well as clicking MC up again, dropping Nero down 3 clicks on the next turn again. Very frustrating as the runner to have to deal with that, but it is part of the game. Now, it's been a while since we've seen an agenda. We have to assume that there is at least one agenda in HQ. Yes, we saw these 2 3-pointers scored at the beginning, but it's been a couple turns. At this point, one of these 4 cards, it would not be that strange if one of them was an agenda. Nanoteching is dropped and clicked for 2 credits. Boomerang dropped. Oh, this is smart. Very, very smart. Boomerang dropped on Hagen. And a legwork into HQ is going to threaten to steal what are probably is one agenda somewhere for that game-winning point. Victor rezzed. However, Amina is able to break through that, also forcing the Corp to lose a credit due to Amina's ability. Hagen is hit. Barrier Breaker and Mackler is going to... Oh, no, I'm sorry. The Boomerang, of course, breaking Hagen. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was a legwork run. I misspoke. That was actually a diversion of funds run. It's late. Forgive me. Okay, so that's still okay. I think a legwork would have been probably preferable, but I mean, this guy might not have a legwork. Might not even run legwork. So given what he had, diversion of funds into HQ makes a certain level of sense. Forces the Corp to spend some more money. Nero's able to get in here very cheap. How much does it cost to break Victor? Oh my goodness. 2 credits. 2 credits to break Victor. And it forces the Corp to lose a credit. And then Hagen only has a strength of 4. So Mackler breaks that for 4 credits, but gets a credit back. So for 5 credits, Nero gets into HQ whenever they want and forces the Corp to lose a credit. A double run on R&D with a Mobius is going to gain 4 credits if the second run is successful. Mackler's going to break Hagen the first time for 3 credits and the second time for 4 credits. A little expensive. But you know what? Nero gets a lucky guess, guesses 0 on RNG key, pulls 2 cards from RNG key, sees a Cerebral Overrider, trashes it, goes back in and sees another card, not an agenda. So gets to see 2 cards, draw 2 cards of his own, and comes out just a credit down, I believe. Or no, more than a credit down. A couple credits down. But Mobius helps offset that. Nero clicks up for 2 credits with just basic actions. Paragon. Paragon is also helping that, gaining a credit due to the successful run. I think Nero actually ended that turn with the same number of credits he began the turn with the advantage of having seen the top card of R&D as well as getting rid of... Wait. I needed to address this. What the heck is the Cerebral Overrider doing in this deck? That's a little bit of a spicy include from Mirror Morph. Anyway, Mirror Morph is still continuing to click up MCA each turn. Probably because it helps them trigger their unique action effect, while simultaneously removing a click from Nero. Nero decides to do a bravado run on HQ, already knowing what the ice is on this server, knows he can get through it. RNG key guesses a 4, runs into a next Sapphire. Good guess, good guess. Probably saw that off the top of R&D and knew that the Corp was going to draw it, so knew that he had a 1 in 4 chance of hitting that card. Draws 2 cards. Gains some money from Bravado. And drops 2 Penumbral toolkits. So when it's all said and done, actually ends the turn with 1 credit up and 2 toolkits down for free, since Penumbral is free to install if a successful HQ run has been made. Back to Mirror Morph, they install a card in server 1, double advance it. We know that they run... Oh, no. But they've popped MCA Austerity. Gross. So anyway, they pop their MCA, drop a card in server 1, res Sansan, score a Cyberdex for 1 agenda point less than normal. Of course, Cyberdex is a credit neutral score, but it was 6 credits more expensive due to Sansan being res. Sansan being res was a little questionable. They didn't need to res Sansan to do that because they popped MCA. And now Nero's just going to go right in here, hit the next bronze, break it with a Mina for basically nothing, and just going to trash that Sansan. Yeah, I think that was a bad move. I don't think Mirror Morph should have res the Sansan. They just should have scored out the Cyberdex with MCA. Because once Mirror Morph invested those 6 credits into Sansan, that is a tasty trash for the runner. But if you don't res that Sansan, you install Cyberdex with MCA, advance it 4 times, you're coming out of that credit neutral, which means you're not going to lose any money on that. You're going to score 4 credits, and you won't have spent 6 credits to res Sansan. You knew you had an X bronze on there, and you knew he had an Amina. Yeah, I think that was very bad. What is this Penumbral toolkit even being used for? Oh, just I think it's just used for free money. I mean, they're technically stealth credits, but Nero doesn't have any stealth breakers. I think it's just literally free money after an HQ run is the reason why it's in here. Unless he runs that killer that bypasses things. Anyway, Mirror Morph is on the board. They do have a Cyberdex Sandbox scored. Nero playing their last Bravado goes into HQ, has the tools to break the ice on HQ, guesses 4, hits an Ash, not going to be able to trigger RNG key. Goes ahead and pays the 3 to break, trash Ash. Drops a Penumbral. Also ends the turn 1 credit up. After drawing twice. He's back to having 4 clicks again. I bet that feels good. The Nero deck does a good job of remaining at a steady level of credits, largely due to Bravado and Penumbral Toolkit, but also little tricks like Mobius as well. Nero's never rich, but he's never poor either. Ugh. You hate to see that as the runner. Another MCA dropped, clicked up. That's just going to be another headache coming your way. Again, though, even though Nero scored these 2 3-pointers at the beginning, the Corp is in a good spot. If Nero had just managed to be a little less lucky and only get one of these, I'd say that Mirror Morph was in a commanding position. But simply because that's not the case, Nero's fishing around for that last point. He boomerangs next gold, which makes a certain level of sense. Jumps into server 3, sees a Maryland campaign, goes in and trashes it. The Corp does not try to res it in order to take advantage of the fact that it would be shuffled back into R&D, knowing that they would lose the 2 credit res cost. Goes ahead and just lets Nero trash that one. That's 2 Marylands in the bin. If I was Mirror Morph, though, I'd probably make the same decision. There's no real need to lose the 2 credits just to shuffle Maryland back into R&D. You've already got the MCA, you've got the nanoteching, you've got the vapor frame. You've got 3 unique actions you can take each turn here to trigger your ID ability, which is exactly what we see here. We see MCA used, nanoteching used, vapor frame used, and that extra click is used to draw a card. It should be pointed out that vapor frame ignores install costs, which means that this 2 iced server did not cost anything extra to install this 3rd piece of ice on. Back to Nero. Nero decides to run archives, perhaps wanting to just really make sure that last face down card wasn't an agenda, although I think there must have been another reason why he ran that, right? No, just wanted to check that. I don't think the Corp would have been foolish enough to trash an agenda. Oh, but of course, Nero also gains 1 credit from Paragon. Never mind, that makes sense. So it was kind of like clicking for credit, but also with the slight advantage of getting a little more information by seeing that face down card, which does reveal that our Corp friend here likes to be a little tricky. Cerebral Overrider, Aggressive Secretary. These are trap cards. Not always cards you see out of HB. Anyway, Mirror Morph drops another nanoteching. Is going to be able to click both of those each turn should they want. I believe those count as unique actions, even though it's the same ability, because they're on different cards. They count as unique actions, I think. Let's see here. Well, we didn't actually get to see it play out like that because, let's see here. Yeah, because here, unless this is a bug, he was able to use his extra Mirror Morph action to use the other nanoteching matrix. Anyway, Bugalter is our killer. So it is not the Panther killer that uses the stealth credits, which confirms these penumbral toolkits are literally just here for free money. Bugalter, definitely a strong killer. DreamNet down on the table. So this is a deck that wants to run. We saw Bankroll, Paragon, DreamNet. Now Nero only has the 1 link. So he's only getting the card draw out of DreamNet so far. I wonder if he's got a card in here that gives him the extra link somewhere in his deck. However, decides to fight that MCA austerity policy. The outermost piece of ice that we hadn't seen is a next Sapphire. However, that's a code gate. It'll be very easy for Amina to break. 2 credits. Ugh, that's disgusting. 2 credits to break that one, 2 credits to break this one. So for 4 credits, he just gets into the MCA server. It says, I've had enough of that. You are not going to MCA another agenda. Runs R&D. Now, of course, we see an equivocation here, which means that he can filter out R&D cards. However, Corp spends a whopping 10 credits to res next diamond. Nero uses his ability to just say, nope, I'm out, and jacks out. Back to the Corp, they recoup a lot of that lost money by double-clicking their, clicking each of their nanoteching matrices once each. And is now deciding what they want to do with their next turn. Sorry, click. Perhaps looking for a card to install with Vapor Frame. Indeed. We're installing an unseen card from HQ. Where are we going to put it, though? Is it ice? Is it an asset? It's ice. Helping to build up that server. Perhaps the delay there was the decision of whether or not to create a stronger server here or to protect R&D further. Nero's going out for blood here. Oh, and this hurts so much. A lot of this next ice is really cool, but a lot of it are just code gates. And Amina's just chewing through all of these code gates for 2 credits. Not only that, it's also forcing the Corp to lose a credit each time. Well, the first time each turn they're broken. Or Amina is used to break one of them, rather. Nero wasn't even interested in killing the nanoteching matrix. He just went in there to use bank job to earn a sweet 8 credits. After earning that money, decides to contest HQ, where we see a next bronze res. Now, Amina does have to be boosted to break that, since it does have a strength of 6. Victor, also with a strength of 3. But Amina has a strength of 3, so it's 4 credits to break bronze, 2 credits to break Victor. 4 credits to break Hagen, but you get 1 of those credits back, so 3. So we're looking at 4, 2, and 3. So 9 credits to get into HQ, gets into HQ, gets 1 credit back from Paragon, so 8 credits, if you count the Paragon credit. Guesses 3, hits a next gold, no dice. It's passed back over to the Corp, who simply makes money with nanoteching. And spends a turn gaining a total of 6 credits. Back to Nero, he runs archives. Sees the next bronze. Amina's going to chew through that. No, sorry, it's not. Next bronze is the one that gains strength. He decides to go ahead and pay to boost Amina to break that. A total of 6 credits to get through there. I kind of think you just let that end the run. I don't know what the advantage of getting in there was. Sees the face down card, knows that it's not an agenda, at least I suppose. Paragon earns 1 of those credits back, but still, DreamNet draws a card. I don't know. So you pay 6 credits so that you can gain 1 credit and draw a card doesn't seem worth it to me. I think you just end the run at that point and draw a card. Especially because he spent the next 3 clicks after that clicking up for 3 credits. If he wanted money, unless he really thought this face down card was an agenda, doesn't seem like that was the right move. Anyway, it goes back over to Next, who just nanotechs again. Back over to Nero, who boomerangs this nanoteching. Finally realizes that maybe he needs to get in here and trash these nanoteching matrices. But I think it's too little too late. I think if you were going to trash these nanoteching matrices, you need to do this way earlier. Oh, nope, is not interested in... What the... Wait, so... Wait. So he pays 2 credits to install Boomerang. Runs in here, uses Boomerang, so that he can gain a credit back from Paragon. Scries with Paragon. Draws a card with... Why? Why not just draw the card? Maybe I'm missing something here. I've been known to miss tons of things. But I think... The only thing I can say is that Boomerang is getting shuffled back into the deck. But... What are you accomplishing? And I'm sorry, Amina isn't breaking next gold. What? Well, no, Boomerang is. I don't know. I'm just trying to run it through in my head. So you run, you get a credit back from Paragon, and you get a draw from DreamNet. So arguably that offsets the 2 credit install cost of Boomerang, but you're still down a click from installing Boomerang. Boomerang does get shuffled back into R&D, so okay, fine. Like, you'll get it back. But you get to scry the top card of your deck, but you could have just spent a click drawing that card. It seems kind of pointless. Anyway, Nero tries to drop a bankroll, not quite realizing that he is tapped out on MU. Decides instead to gain a credit and discards a duplicate Amina. I'm quite surprised, but it's really starting to look like Mirror Morph is going to win this. And I think it's because Nero did not trash these 2 nanoteching matrices. If Nero had gone in here and trashed these, he certainly had the money to do so. I think this would have been a very different game. We can't really blame him that much. What is he doing? Well, okay. Nero, you done lost your mind. So we can't blame him, very quickly, we'll go over this. We can't blame him that much for not trashing the nanoteching matrices, because I think his line of reasoning was, I just have to get in to get that last agenda point. And that's sort of what he's been trying to do, and just hasn't gotten it. Okay, fine. But what is this diversion of funds accomplishing? He's spending the Boomerang, so 2 credits off Boomerang, 2 credits from Amina to break Victor, and 3 credits on Hagen to force the Corp to lose 5 credits, and he gains the money back, kind of? Except now, the Corp is just going to get it back with nanoteching. That does not hurt the Corp anymore. It hurts the runner more than it hurts the Corp. Nero just clicks for 3 credits. I think it's probably game over now. I mean, not on the next agenda score. I don't think it's possible unless this Mirror Morph runs Vanity Project. I don't think it's possible for them to score. Well, no, even Vanity Project wouldn't do it. Anyway, MCA is going to get popped, and then eventually we'll see the third agenda scored. But yeah, I don't think Nero has any outs right now, unless they just make a blind run into R&D or HQ. Nero's been making perfectly acceptable decisions throughout most of this game, but the last couple of turns, he seems like he's floundering a little bit. Again, if your idea was to ignore the nanoteching matrices in lieu of going for that last game-winning point, that's fine. That makes a certain level of sense. It's its own kind of risk and reward, but don't diversion of funds HQ then. Get into HQ. See cards. Look to get into R&D. Boomerang, I don't know, maybe even Boomerang next Diamond. And let one of the brain damages go through. Since it's a little expensive to break. You can take a little bit of brain damage. Yeah, okay, here we go. We see just that. MCA, I'm a little confused. MCA does not look like it was used to score an agenda. It looks like it was used to do a bunch of silly stuff like clicking, nanoteching, using archive memories to pull back a hedge fund. But okay, alright. Anyway, Nero does go ahead and boomerangs next Diamond, runs R&D, hits a barrier, sees that it has like 1 million and the run subroutines and decides, you know what, I can't do that. Lets it end the run. Meanwhile, Mirror Morph scores vulnerability audit. And that explains why MCA austerity policy wasn't used to score vulnerability audit. You can't score it the same turn that you put it down. Back to Nero. Nero just clicks up 4 times. Doesn't really have anything else to do. I think this is kind of indicative of a lack of late game plan for Nero's deck. Aside from the diversion of funds run, Nero's made decisions that make sense overall. Now these are some good strong breakers and some good strong criminal cards in general. Pardon me. Diversion of funds totally makes sense out of criminal. You know, we've got money here, plenty of money. Bravado, great run card, Penumbral Toolkit, also used just for money. But none of this... No, I shouldn't say none of it. A lot of this doesn't come together as a cohesive whole. We have Boomerang, which is a great breaker. Which I think the idea is you use Boomerang, you break ice with it, you shuffle it back into your deck, you successfully complete the run, you use DreamNet to draw your Boomerang back into your hand, Paragon gets you a credit when you do it, so that part of it makes sense. But then you've got RNG key, which conflicts with your desire to install Bankroll, and you're just guessing with RNG key. There's no synergy here that's going to let you see the card, so you're just hoping you fire RNG key. You've got Bank Job, which is, okay, fine. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. It synergizes with your desire to run. But then Equivocation, which I suppose is just there kind of as R&D pressure. This is what I mean. This is where it kind of falls apart. You've got a lot of pieces here, and these are good cards. But I don't know what his late game strategy is. He's got no turning wheel. We don't even see a legwork for HQ. He has no multi-access. The only threat he has is equivocation for a little bit of R&D pressure. And I'm sorry, I've like stopped commenting on the game entirely because at this point, I feel like it's mostly Mirror Morph is just going to keep pushing Nero out here. Anyway, Nero makes what is perhaps the last Hail Mary run on R&D. Sees the next silver, is able to pay to break through it, but not really able to pay to break through that next one. Just bounces off. Admits that they made a mistake and calls the GGs. And yeah, it looks like indeed the Corp is going to triple advance and probably score out the last agenda. Unless, of course, it's another Cyberdex sandbox, in which case they can't. Unless they have a fast advance option. Yeah, it looks like the triple advance. The runner's just going to go ahead and triple click for credits. Sorry. Draw a card and then triple click for credits. And then we'll see the advance on the last agenda. There it is. What? What? Priority requisition? What the heck is this agenda doing in here? Why? Why is priority rec in here? Look, I'm not trying to say like priority rec is the worst agenda ever. But if you're looking for a neutral 5-3, I mean, I guess SSL is gone, so you can't put that in anymore. I guess Global Food Initiative costs an agenda point. I'm just a little shocked. Why is priority requisition here? This guy runs all neutral agendas. I love it. I think what really confuses me about Prirec is that part of its benefit is offset by Vapor Frame. Like, you already ignore install cost with Vapor Frame. Part of the benefit of Prirec is that you can install something ignoring all costs. I kind of feel like this is probably in here just because they were looking for another neutral 5-3. And with SSL, I bet if SSL was legal, this would just be an SSL. But yeah, alright. So, mistakes were made on both sides of the table. I don't really know why the Sansan was res by the Corp all those turns ago. Other than that, though, the Corp definitely was a good sport about this entire thing. Didn't freak out, didn't complain the entire game, was down 6 points pretty much right from the beginning. Stuck with it, kept playing, pulled the win out. And they did it with a very interesting... Well, very interesting maybe isn't quite the right word. A very non-meta Mirror Morph deck. I think is how I'd put that. I mean, this isn't the first HB deck that put all the next ice in the deck. But that being said, this is certainly not like... This is a very odd deck on both sides of the field. Because we see here cards like Aggressive Secretary, Cerebral Overrider. Those are weird includes in a deck like this. I don't know if I like it. It's like, if you advance a Cerebral Overrider, you're really hoping the runner runs into it. And if you bluff that it's in an agenda, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the aggressive secretary. I don't like the Cerebral Overrider. I feel like these were very cheap zero to cost cards, zero cost trash cards that I don't see a good time to use them in this kind of setup. It seems like a very Glacier style deck. And yeah, you can get lucky sometimes and maybe like install double advance a card and the runner gets panicky, runs in and grabs it. It's a Cerebral Overrider and oh no, they've taken 2 brain damage, but 2 brain damage really doesn't matter. I'm much more amenable to the aggressive secretary. That one does make a certain level of sense. I feel like I have respect for an HB deck that includes one of these. But even then, it's a bit of a gamble. Because if you install double advance this and the runner just ignores it, what do you do? Especially because you're a deck that uses MCA austerity policy to score a lot of your stuff. The Mamba Temple is also a little weird. Like, does this deck just run one Mamba Temple? Why? It's a good card, but... But anyway, I feel like I'm just being really negative now. I don't want to sound like I'm just nitpicking for no reason. These are just parts of both the deck and the player's actions that I'm curious about. But overall, it was a really fun game to watch. I did love the fact that this was not a meta game on either side of the table. Nero is certainly not meta. And I did enjoy getting to see just kind of 2 different decks come together here. I think I just want more synergy. I like the concept here between Boomerang, DreamNet, Paragon, Bankroll. I like all of that. I don't like the RNG key. I feel like the RNG key needs to be gotten rid of. That way you can install your Bankrolls. I also feel like maybe one card should be added to Nero's deck that gives him 1 link. Just so DreamNet can also get another credit back on run. Like, even if it's just 1 card. So it's just kind of like one of those things where, hey, either I draw it or I don't kind of thing. Otherwise, maybe replace these bank jobs. Why is Career Fair in here? That's another one. Okay, what the heck is Career Fair doing in this deck? The only resources that this deck was using was Earthrise. You're not going to Career Fair a bank job. I didn't even see that Career Fair. It's because the art is different. You're not going to Career Fair your Penumbral Toolkit. Yeah, get rid of Career Fair. Definitely. And put in Legwork. Or an Inside Job, or a Spearfishing, or just something. You don't need the Career Fair. I guess the Career Fair also could be used to install the DreamNet, but... yeah, I feel like in order to justify the Career Fair, you need to also be using cards like Daily Cast, at least, and then possibly some other kinds of resources that you want to install that are a little high costed. Liberated Account comes to mind, but of course this is a Crim deck, so we're not going to steal Lib accounts necessarily. I feel like I'm spending a ton of time analyzing these 2 decks, but I think it's because they're so interesting. They're so different. They're so not streamlined that they're actually more fun to look into, because you can look at these kinds of decks and see the potential and then imagine it instead of just looking at a Like the Blue Sun Sandberg deck and going, well, that's a degenerate lockout deck. Oh well. Jump into the next one. Wayland Consortium built to last. Wait, what? Oh, this must be a new ID. What the heck is this? 40 deck size. Whenever you advance a card, gain 2 credits if it had no advancement counters. That's really cool. Guys, you remember it's considered to be the worst ID, or sorry, the worst corporation in the game. Like literally the worst. It's the one where you have a recurring credit that you can spend to advance something. This is basically that, only just a little bit better. Basically, it reads, click for a credit, advance 1 card, if it had no advancement tokens on it. That also means it applies to agendas. That's a very cool ID. I love that. I'm really excited to see how this ID works. Past that, ooh, that's some really cool mimic art. I haven't liked all of the new art on the new cards, but I really like that mimic card art. Anyway, enough geeking out. Max, of course, is going to trash 2 of her cards each turn and draw a card. It's a little rough to play Max these days because Levy AR access no longer in the game. Probably we'll see things like labor rights, trope, also the Levy AR replacement card, the one that pulls back 5 unique copies of cards from your heap, may be used. Buffer drive also looks like it's a card. Okay. Buffer drive, actually, I never even considered this. Works in tandem with Max's ID ability. With buffer drive installed, every time Max trashes 2 cards, you get to choose one of those to add back into your stack. So it almost reads, trash 1 card, draw 1 card, except you get to choose one of the 2 cards that's trash, which means you're going to choose the one that's least valuable to you. Anyway, Archive Memories is used to add an IPO to hand. We see 3 pieces of advanced ice, 4 pieces of ice total. Not a lot of forward momentum from Wayland. Definitely building some chunky central servers, though. It's going to be difficult for Max to even begin to think about jumping into these servers, except for the fact that, you know, Wayland isn't exactly... Well, I was going to say they aren't exactly rich. That IPO is going to help, though. Max has plenty of money at 22 credits. Live account there when she needs it for another 4 as well. Reclaim going to allow her to pull, what is it, a program hardware or a virtual resource if she needs it. You can really see the synergy here in how Max is mitigating her ID ability with buffer drive, with reclaim. Paperclip gonna come out of the bin anyway. She's pretty rich at 27 credits. Even dropped a 6-costed Maw. That's going to be a little scary. Once she starts actually getting in and accessing cards, HQ is going to be a little bit under fire. Wayland has an impressive number of ice on the table, 6 pieces of ice, but not all the money in the world until they play mass commercialization. In which case they gain a whopping 10 credits. Now they're sitting pretty with plenty of money to threaten the res on all these servers. Still no forward movement, though, on actually scoring anything. Which means that for all the money that they've got, for all the setup they have on the board, you gotta think, eventually this is going to tip into the runner's favor. And the scoring window for the Corp is going to close unless they have some kind of strategy that's going to rocket them forward. Looks like we have new Femme Fatale art. Okay, another piece of ice on the remote. Perhaps looking to start that scoring process. Making sure to take advantage of the ID ability by advancing all unadvanced ice by 1. You also have to think as well, Red Planet Courier could be part of this whole process. So maybe we're just slowly advancing all this ice in order to dump it onto a high point agenda. Glut Cipher. Wow. It's not a card you always see. Make a run on archives. If successful, instead of accessing cards, force the Corp to choose 5 cards from archives and add them to HQ. Then you trash that many cards from HQ at random. A lot of people don't think that that's a very good card. But we'll have to see if Max uses it to any efficiency. Some people have rationalized that Glut Cipher might actually help the Corp. But I think it all depends on when it's used and who it's used against. If it's a Corp that wants to hold a lot of important operations in hand, then Glut Cipher could do some damage. Oh wait, the first agenda is scored. Hostile Takeover, scored out of hand. We have a triple advanced piece of ice on HQ that has been femmed. Ooh, and Wanton Destruction thrown into HQ. Winchester res. It is a sentry. Fem can break this. It's going to be a little pricey to do so, but we're able to do that with a total of 7 credits, 2 of them from Taka. Aket, res. Little frustrating that was femmed. I really don't like the raw fem install, but I also understand why it had to be done. The raw fem install was probably to protect against any potential sentries, but at that point you have to guess, right? You have to guess where you're throwing that fem token on. I think I would have liked to have seen Max try to poke in earlier to perhaps see even the Winchester. You know, fem that Winchester, that way you don't have to pay to boost strength, because 4 credits, whopping 4 credits to boost strength to match Winchester with fem. Fem is quite an investment, and I think that's going to set Max back a little bit here. Because femming Aket doesn't really do you very much good, because you can only break one of the subroutines anyway. Wait, what am I saying? You don't... Fem bypasses, though, right? No, never mind. So femming the Aket actually has the interesting side effect of being able to bypass both subroutines, in spite of the fact that it has 3 advancement tokens on it. So never mind, not a total loss. Anyway. Wanton Destruction did force 3 cards to be trashed from HQ. Corp responded by drawing 2 cards and installing a new card in server 1. Max goes into archives. Oh, and sees indeed Red Planet Courier trashed, as well as archived memories and biotic labor. Wow, that was a very, very juicy wanton destruction. But again, this is why Glut Cipher seems like a bad call. And I know Max hasn't used it. We haven't seen Max try to Glut Cipher yet. But imagine now, if Max Glut Ciphers, the Corp could just choose Red Planet Courier, Archive Memory, Biotic Labor, and like Mass Commercialization. They would love to get those cards back into their hand. And then, yes, of course, they have to trash 5 at random. But chances are they'd get some card back in their hand that they would actually want. Regardless, with Red Planet Courier out, another copy of Archive Memory out, I'm sure the Corp is hoping to either draw another Archive Memory, or perhaps they have another Red Planet Courier in their deck somewhere. They overwrite their wall-to-wall. They install a blank remote and advance that card. Once it does end up being an NGO front. However, Max chooses not to trash it, and that was in order to trigger the Maw effect. So we do see a random card from HQ trash due to Maw. Corp has plenty of money. We just need to see what they do with it. But again, their game plan has been heavily disrupted due to that wanton destruction. But we do see another Red Planet Courier, and there it is. Red Planet Courier on Government Takeover, and that is the game. Kind of the live by the sword, die by the sword strategy. In another scenario, Max could have just as easily gotten lucky and scored that, or stolen it rather. We do have the advantage of getting to see a lot of Max's deck. Mimic seems like the killer of choice, with what appears to be no way to actually boost that if needed. I like the buffer drive in Max. The wanton destruction was good. The Glut Cipher needs to go. Lib accounts makes sense. Stimhack makes sense. Paperclip makes sense. Most of this is just good stuff. Anarch. Paladin Poemu is just straight up a good card. I don't understand why it's so... why it applies to so many cards. It is literally, if you install anything that isn't a connection, it's just free money. Taka generating a little bit of revenue to use on the breakers. Looks like Utai, Paperclip, and Fem are the breakers of choice here. Do we even have 3 resources? Virtual resources. We've got 2 here in Poemu and Taka. Where's the third one? Maybe Max runs Fencer Fueno? Not one you see very often, but we didn't see it in the bin. Yeah, without a very... even then, even with the companions, Utai is not very stable here. Because it's going to require those 3 virtual resources. We saw over half the deck, and we don't see the third one. Even if it is Fueno, it means you'd have to draw a copy of Taka, Poemu, and Fueno, and hope that you haven't max trashed them. It seems risky. It means any server with 2 code gates on it is going to cause you trouble until you get all of that set up. And don't get me wrong, Utai is very cheap to install, and it's not the worst decoder in the game or something. I just don't know why it's being used the way it is here in this deck. Nothing wrong with Femme Fatale on its own, but it is another head scratcher in this deck. There's nothing here that's mitigating the cost of Femme Fatale. There's also, I mean, 9 credits to install is very expensive. No, I'm an idiot. Of course, Mimic. Okay. I see here. So Femme Fatale is here as a backup breaker in case Mimic isn't strong enough to break something. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But if that was the case, I really don't like the fact that this was just blindly femmed. If Mimic is your go-to killer, but it looked like at least 2 of the Mimics were trash. She might just not have had the Mimic in hand, but then you also have Reclaim. Could have reclaimed one of these Mimics from the bin. Yeah, I think this max deck needs a lot more work. There's almost no synergy in it, aside from buffer drive. And there's good cards here, but needs more intentionality. The Wayland deck did certainly have synergy in it, just based on it was clearly a Red Planet Courier deck. I am kind of sad that seems to be the best strategy for every Wayland deck that uses advancement tokens. It's kind of dull. I understand why it ends up working like that, because you got to do something with those advancement tokens. Red Planet Courier is one of the best things you can do with it. I just wish there was something more, you know? Kind of seems like every deck from Wayland that uses advancement tokens on ice just mass commercializes money, and then Red Planet Courier's government takeover. There has to be something more creative we can do with this new Wayland ID. Oh well. It's getting late. Now I'm going to bed. Hopefully the babbling of myself was not too difficult to listen to if you're still watching out there, or if you tuned in. Thank you, as always. Maybe I'll catch you in the next one. Otherwise, take care of yourself out there, and see you then.